When we see success, we assume skill. This book asks a harder question. What if much of it is simply luck? Fooled by Randomness by Nassim Taleb explores how deeply humans misunderstand chance, probability, and uncertainty, especially in finance and life. Taleb argues that many outcomes we attribute to intelligence or strategy are actually driven by randomness and survivorship bias. The central message is uncomfortable but essential. We systematically underestimate the role of luck. Judging by outcomes is a mistake. Humans evaluate people by results. Success is praised as skill. Failure is blamed on incompetence. But good decisions can lead to bad outcomes, and bad decisions can lead to good ones. Judging by results alone causes us to confuse luck with ability. Survivorship bias. We only see the winners. Successful traders, famous entrepreneurs, best-selling authors. The countless failures disappear from view. This makes success look predictable and repeatable, when it often isn't. The unseen data matters most. Humans are bad at probability. Our brains are not built to understand randomness. We overreact to short-term results, see patterns where none exist, ignore regression to the mean. In markets, random noise is constantly mistaken for meaningful signal. The danger of stories. Humans crave explanations. After success, we create narratives to justify it. These stories feel convincing, but are often invented after the fact. Narratives help us feel in control, even when we are not. Wisdom is about survival, not prediction. Taleb's advice is not to predict the future, but to survive it. Avoid catastrophic losses. Build robustness against bad luck. Accept uncertainty instead of denying it. The goal is not to be the smartest person in the room, but to remain standing. Fooled by Randomness teaches a humbling lesson. The world is far more random than we want to believe, and recognizing that makes us wiser. Next, we'll explore how this perspective on randomness reshapes investing, risk management, and life decisions.
Today, we're going to tackle one of the most influential and, one of the most controversial books out there, Nassim Taleb's Fooled by Randomness. And trust me, this is a book that gets people talking, for better or for worse.
I mean, just check this out. One reader said the book was so smug and self-absorbed that it was desperately in need of an editor, calling it a pretentious, ranting diary. Yikes.
But then, on the complete other end of the spectrum, you get another reader who says, yeah, okay, Taleb can be arrogant, but he is also right. They think his ideas are so important, they hope he never, ever shuts up. So what's the deal here? Is the author this brilliant mind that we absolutely can't afford to ignore, or is he just a provocateur whose abrasive style kind of gets in the way of his own message? Well, let's try to figure that out by digging into his core argument.
You see, Taleb's entire book is really built around one single, very powerful accusation, and it's aimed directly at you, at me, at all of us.
He calls it being fooled by randomness, and at its heart, it's about our deep-seated habit of looking at someone who's successful and immediately thinking, wow, what a genius, when, in reality, they might have just gotten really, really lucky.
Basically, Taleb's whole point is that we live in a world that is way more random than our brains want to believe. We're constantly on the hunt for reasons, for causes, for skill, when a lot of the time, the real driver is just pure, dumb luck.
And to really hammer this home, he uses this pretty wild thought experiment. He argues that if you have millions and millions of people all trading in the stock market, the simple laws of probability guarantee that someone is going to end up with a track record as amazing as Warren Buffett's, just by sheer chance alone.
And think about what that means. What we see as undeniable genius could actually just be the totally inevitable outcome of a random process. It's a pretty shocking idea, right? But Taleb says we're easily tricked into seeing skill where there's only luck, all because of a huge flaw in how we think.
So how on earth does this happen? Well, Taleb points to his main piece of evidence, and it has this fantastic name, the invisible graveyard.
The psychological trick at play here is something called survivorship bias. And this thing is one of the sneakiest, most powerful biases out there. It affects our judgment every single day, and we usually don't even have a clue it's happening.
This slide just lays it out perfectly. On the left, in the What We See column, we see the winner, the successful billionaire investor. We celebrate them. But look at the right, the What We Don't See column. That's the invisible graveyard, the thousands, maybe millions of bankrupt investors who tried the exact same thing and failed. Their stories get buried, so we never hear from them and we never learn from their failures.
As Taleb puts it, we build our entire understanding of the world based only on the winners. Why? Because the winners are the only ones left standing for us to see. And this gives us a totally warped view of reality, making success look way more predictable than it really is.
So, why? Why are our brains so susceptible to this? What is the root cause of this massive blind spot? Well, Taleb argues the culprit is the very thing that makes us human. We fall for it because our brains, they're not built to think in statistics, they're built to think in stories. We crave explanations, we look for cause and effect, for heroes and villains. We are essentially totally addicted to a good story. Just look at this comparison. Logic is cold, it's abstract. It's all about this equals that. But narrative is different. It's warm, it's personal. It's about this causes that. It's about asking, what if? Now, which one of those feels more compelling to you? And we know this is true. A good story will beat raw data pretty much every single time when it comes to persuading people. We are just hardwired to be pulled in by a compelling plot, even if that plot is completely misleading. And you see this addiction being fed everywhere, especially on financial news channels, right? When the market goes up or down, you don't get a lesson in probability theory. No way. You get a story. The market rallied today because of renewed investor optimism. It's this nice, neat narrative that makes a random event feel totally understandable and, what's really dangerous, predictable. And this all leads to a really dangerous habit that Taleb calls rationalizing. We look back at something that happened, and with our perfect 20/20 hindsight, we connect all the dots and spin a story that makes it all seem inevitable. We fool ourselves into thinking the world is a lot more predictable than it actually is.
Okay, so let's circle back to where we started. Is Nassim Nicholas Taleb a brilliant thinker that we should be listening to, or just an arrogant writer we should probably ignore?
Let's be real here. The critics have a point. Taleb's style is, well, it's not for everyone. He happily calls out people he thinks are wrong as fools and dimwits, which can definitely make the book feel like that reviewer said, a ranting diary. But, and this is a huge but, as another reviewer points out, even if you can't stand the guy, you can't just throw out his ideas. The message is just too important, especially in a world that seems to get more and more uncertain every day. And honestly, this is the real secret to getting the most out of this book. The goal isn't to become some cynic who thinks everything is just random noise. No, it's to develop a kind of intellectual humility, to really truly recognize the limits of what we know, and to respect the massive role that chance plays in our lives. So how do we actually do this? Here's a quick 3-step guide. First, acknowledge luck. You've got to learn to separate a good outcome from a good decision. They're not the same thing. Second, challenge narratives. Make it a habit to actively try and prove your own favorite ideas wrong. And third, respect the invisible graveyard. Always be asking yourself, okay, what am I not seeing here? Whose stories of failure are being ignored? So I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. Think about your single biggest success in life, and be honest with yourself. How much of that was really your amazing skill, and how much of it was just a great story you told yourself after the fact, connecting all the random dots that just happened to fall in your favor?